Good morning. Thank you so much for being here.
Good morning.
Good
Yeah.
morning.
I'd like to begin. Just would you please introduce yourselves and give us a brief background for the cameras as to who you are and what your role was in the music history?
Well, I'm Uvee Hayes. I have 65 years in the broadcast and media industry. Former disc jockey, program director, music director, Air Force veteran, and currently I have a television program. I'm the interim director for the National Blues Museum. I'm a professor at the Webster University, and I run the National Black Radio Hall of Fame and the Wolf Jazz Institute at Harris Stokes State University. I'm a columnist for the St. Louis American newspaper, and I've been in this business for a long time.
I'm Uvee Hayes, and actually I've played two roles most of my adult life as an educator with the city public schools here in St. Louis as a school psychologist. Been doing that for 40 years. Also, I'm a professional recording artist and have been doing that for many years, most of my adult years. And I'm a mother, a wife.
Yeah.
Just love entertaining and have been in it for a long time.
Yeah. And thank you for that, of course. I was thinking when you were talking about your credentials, and I see the scroll laying out, all of the letters behind your name and all of the accolades and like the long list of things. Tell us about that. You said you came back to St. Louis in '65?
Yes.
From California?
Yeah, but I'm from Chicago.
Okay.
Yeah, so I went to California in '64 at KSOL Radio. It used to be KSAN, and they changed the format to a black format. It became KSOL. And with me was Sly Stone. Sly Stone was one of our disc jockeys, and Herb Campbell, and so forth. And we changed the format, and we became the #1 station in the Bay Area. Our competitor was KDIA in Oakland, California. But then I was Johnny Rabbit, who was a big disc jockey here in St. Louis, Missouri, had gone to Oakland to KDIA, and he used to listen to me in the mornings on his way to work while I was already on the air. And when he left California to come back to St. Louis, he took a position at KATZ Radio, called himself Johnny American, and he decided to try to get me to come to St. Louis, knowing I was from Chicago. And I was very unhappy at KSOL, and I was going to move to Los Angeles, and he asked me to come here. So I said, yeah, I'll come there for 1 year. And I'm 56 now.
Yeah.
And I started out in Mississippi. I'm originally from the state of Mississippi, Macon, Mississippi. That's where I started my career singing. Also, I attended the University of Mississippi Valley State University, and then went over to Mississippi State in Starksville, Mississippi. So most of my educational background did come from the state of Mississippi. And then after I got here, certifications came into play at SIU, Webster, and places like that. And this guy here I met at the radio station, because at the time I was kind of looking for a producer, type thing to keep it moving.
Yeah.
So that's how we kind of.
He said if you want to get on the air.
She never mentions that she was one of the first African Americans to receive a master's degree from Mississippi State University.
Yeah.
Bring it, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Congratulations on that. So tell us about the sounds of the city. What were you hearing? What was on the radio? And did you have a hand in to bring forth, things that weren't heard, or were things new to you?
In the mid-'60s, as you perhaps remember, Motown was just starting, but people still thought that they were the crossover medium, but they were not. See, Louis Armstrong, Ella Fitzgerald, Duke Ellington, all these people were crossover artists long before the soul, sound of soul. And when the soul music started crossing over, we still weren't being played the African American artists. There was Stax, and there was Atlantic, and there were some other independent labels who kind of took advantage of what was happening with Motown. But yet and still, the African American artists weren't getting fair play, not
Right.
until the mid to late 70s.
Even on radio, this wasn't about just marketing the product, you know, what you see on the album covers or anything. They were still blocking radio waves from having these.
They were. You hear these wonderful commercials now with Howlin' Wolf and,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
James Brown.
Yeah.
But that was not the case in the 60s.
Yeah.
That was not the case in the late 70s sometimes. And when MTV came about, they wouldn't even play artists,
Right.
black artists. So it's been a rough struggle.
Yeah.
You know, they make it sound so rosy now, like everything was really wonderful. But it was terrible. It was iconic. It was draconic, draconian. You know, it was terrible. It was bad.
Yeah.
And may I interject,
Sure.
Bernie, isn't this also connected to the time period of the race, you know, records, you
Yeah.
know? Even when you think about its connection with films identified as race films,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
So that kind of segregation continued on through the 60s and 70s in a
Late
sense.
70s.
Yeah.
Yeah, late 70s. And then the black artists were considered race records. Memphis Minnie and all these different people, you know. When you take a tour of the National Blues Museum, you see all these wonderful artists who were recording, black artists who were recording back in the 20s and the 30s, but they weren't getting play on what they call major media. Major media that the black artists never did were used on white radio. As simple as that. And it's nothing that most people don't know about, but they seem to write those stories out of the history books.
That's why
Not
we're here
write them out,
today.
they actually don't write them in.
Right. Yeah. Those omissions, just skipping over it, and it's not for, you know, these artists saying, "Hey, we're here." You know, were they stifled? Of course they were. You know, we know that civil rights movements and being beaten back with hoses and arrests and murders and things like that. Could you talk about those times? Especially those threatening times. Was it how dangerous was it for even to be a personality, to be a performer, to be on radio, and was it a point like, you know?
Well, my wife's from Mississippi. It was just dangerous being black.
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you were with a band in Mississippi, and you
Yeah.
guys used to travel a lot.
Yeah. I did. When I was in college, I took on jobs, and we kind of played around the city, you know, to make meal tickets, you know, that kind of thing on campus. And we were really not allowed, didn't get any kind of opportunity as far as playing for a white audience. I think we might have done it maybe one time or something like that, but it was always just the local clubs
Right.
around the city.